I'm a little disappointed to say that this is part 3. Not disappointed to say it's part 3, but this is part 3 of the self-portrait text tutorial. Now, I recorded this final one already using, as you can see, this is my finished piece. And I did the recording, and I wanted to show you guys how I trimmed everything to make it perfectly aligned with the outline that I had initially created. As you can see here, I did the recording, and the video got corrupt, and I wasn't able to undo everything here to go back to the to my original work, which is where I started here. So I'm going to have to start here and just give you an example of how I will use what I have here plus a couple more words to trim, using this outline to trim everything that's outside of the area. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to add a couple more words in so you can see how they would maybe come in, and you can see how they might trim. So like for instance, French here, I will go to my character palette and I'm just gonna decrease the tracking on that using the little tracking button. I'm gonna just make this full screen so you can see what I'm doing. And so tracking maybe -100, so that's nice and tight. I'm going to then rotate it just a little bit. Now assume that I've already done most of this work, as you can count, on the other video. Let's say I'm going to undo that. I'm going to just keep it like this, and then I'm going to add the next word in. This was the second word, and for this one I'm going to actually just really quickly just draw a nice let's just draw a nice curve here with the curve pen tool, and then I'm going to just copy this and delete that, and then just click on the curve pen tool with the text tool and then paste it. Notice, by the way, I'm gonna just do this again, it pasted underneath here. That's because I started at the top here and I went down. It's also very big, so which is why you can't see the entire word. Now if you want that, that's great. Maybe I would want that like right here, maybe. But if you didn't want this like this, remember you can always go to the type on path options and go ahead and preview and flip it. And by flipping it, it'll just put it on the other side, right? You guys remember that? Okay. And you can kind of see I'm going to just get it to be right on the line, but not too much on the line. You can kind of see so that the edges are kind of overlapping, so that I'll have some semblance of like an edge outline, but I don't want it to go completely off the outline, because then all this will be cut off. So again, I will try to get this to be almost perfectly in, but right on the edge, so that it'll look okay. So something like, I think the T might go away on this one, maybe something like that. I'll just put this one like that. Okay, and then one last word. Let's see, this one, just make it, again, I'll track it a little bit smaller. Maybe, yeah, -100 will work. And then I'm going to hold the shift key down and just scale it visually here. And the idea, again, is to make sure that none of these elements are touching, if it's possible. Okay, now you should have all along been selecting these words, getting them arranged, and then going to Object, Expand, and then expanding them, and then hitting the Ungroup button, so that you could then physically modify each individual letter just so it fits in even more tightly to the space without touching anything. So maybe you'll be able to get a little bit more density for the letters, and also you'll be able to get them to kind of work a little bit better with your outline. You can actually get them to move in the right direction, those kinds of things. So again, Object, Expand for each time you do this, and then Ungroup. Don't forget that, because then it'll allow you just to grab these letters and just make sure they're not touching, as you can see here. Now when you're ready to do the final cutting, now this is not totally done, but again, this is how far I got. And when you're ready to do this type of cutting, what you're going to do is just select all, go to Select All, and then look to see that everything has an outline. Everything has a blue outline, and you can see that all of these have blue outlines. But if you have something that does not have a blue outline, like the word inquisitive here, that means you did not expand it. So please go to Object, Expand, and make sure that you expand everything so everything has a blue outline. If you don't, this will not work. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is I'm going to deselect here. I'm going to go to my layers window, and we started with two layers, one locked layer, which is the gray outline there. And I'm going to open up that locked layer, and you'll see I'm going to unlock it and select the path. And you can see that that path, I'm going to use a direct select so you can see that that's actually a path I drew, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this path. I'm going to select it. You can see it's selected. It's outlined. I'm going to edit, copy. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock the red layer or that path layer again. And this time I'm going to turn it off, right? So you can kind of see it's gone away. I'm going to click back into my current layer, the one where all the words are, the blue layer. And I'm going to go to Edit, Paste in Place. It's really important you paste in place because it might paste differently if you don't paste in place. Paste in place will paste it exactly the way it was in the other layer. When I do that, I'm back again with the exact same outline that I had before, but this time it's on the blue layer, so I can actually use it for this next part. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select everything in this frame. So I'm just going to click away, use my selection tool, and select everything. And the idea will be we will be cutting stuff with the lines. So anything that's overlapping like this will also be cut. But since this is all going to be a JPEG, that's not going to be a problem. We won't be laser cutting this. If you wanted to laser cut it, I would actually get all the words to be one single black object. Before we do anything here, though, I want you to be aware, if we were to use this gray area, the gray will stay, and the problem will be that in these little areas like where the M is or the A, the gray will be inside instead of white. What we want is this gray to just go away. So before we do anything, let's click on that outline layer. You can see I've selected the blue outline, and we can see that the fill is black, obviously with an opacity that was like 26%. And the stroke was clear, right? What we want is that fill to be absolutely invisible as well. So now we have both stroke and fill in transparent. That means that line will be used just to cut, but it won't influence any of the visuals that we have, right? Okay, so now we're gonna zoom out. We're going to select everything, even that invisible outline. You can see everything is selected, including the text. And now we're going to open up our Pathfinder window. And then what we will use is this first element, this divide. And you can see that it just shows that all the things that are overlapping will just turn into cut elements, right? So we're going to click on this once, and that did it. And now take a look at what happened. So I'm going to just go back to this inquisitive area. And remember, this will only work if you've expanded all the text. I'm going to click away, and now I'm going to click. Oh, and the one last thing, we do need to ungroup, because when you did that, you created a grouping. So let's ungroup, and now let's move in. And you can see that I can select just these top elements, the ones that were part of the outline, and I can actually remove them. So you can see how that you can go now all the way around and start removing anything that that kind of overlapped. Some things you won't need to remove, like this top little element right here. It's not really necessary, but it's you can go ahead and do that. Like maybe you want to keep that. Don't remove the wrong thing. But other elements, especially at the front of the portrait, like the nose and the face, you'll want to get rid of. Now, sometimes you might not be able to see where things are. So again, you can always just like select all, and that'll give you an idea of like where is the curve, right? And then click away, and then just start working on like the little pieces. So again, where the nose, the mouth, the eyes are, it'll be important for you to actually go through and get rid of these things. So hopefully that helps. And the idea, after you're all done, right, you can kind of see this is pretty much on the line, so there are only a couple little pieces on top here. But you'll go through that, and when you're all done, you can see that that's like what you'll get. And remember, try to get as many of these letters to be really kind of fill up the space as much as possible. The more filled in it is, the more solid this portrait will look. If you have big holes, it'll make a difference. So again, try to really cram in those letters using all of the techniques shown in video number 2. Okay, when you're all done with that, what you're going to do, say for instance you're finished with that, you're going to go to File, Export, Export for or Export As. And don't forget, we want to use the artboard this time. If you have multiple artboards, make sure you're selecting the right one. And we will be exporting this as a JPEG because that's what we'll be printing. We'll hit Export. We will make sure this time that it's at 300 ppi because that's our print quality. Art optimized and baseline optimized will be fine, and we want it maximum. And when you hit OK, that will export the file to a JPEG, which you can then submit to get printed. Now, if you want to continue on this and use your Live Paint Bucket and do some work filling in different letters, remember how the Live Paint Bucket works. It just allows you to fill in, different things that are selected. I've selected everything here, so obviously it'll kind of just fill in here. But you can use your Live Paint Bucket to fill in things. Things might be a little slow, especially if you have a lot of letters or a lot of words. So it's up to you, but you don't need to actually fill these in with color. Black and white will be just fine. So hopefully this helps a little bit, and I hope you guys have a lot of fun exploring the use of the text tools and the effects for text in this assignment.